You wake up tomorrow and your phone is gone, your bed is gone, your house is gone. In fact, everything you've ever owned gone. You're lying on a pile of dry leaves inside a cave. And the only thing between you and a very bad morning is a fire that's almost dead. This isn't a nightmare. This is Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. Actually, you have absolutely no idea what day it is. And here's the wild part, nobody does and nobody cares. Welcome to 100,000 BC. No calendar, no alarm clock, no coffee, no Instagram. Just you, your tribe, a cold cave, and the vague awareness that something out there probably wants to eat you. Modern humans spend about 1/3 of their entire lives at work. Our Stone Age ancestors, according to anthropologist Marshall Salins, they spent about 15 to 20 hours a week on survival activities. The rest of the time was theirs, free, which sounds amazing until you remember that those 15 to 20 hours involved hunting animals that could kill you, foraging plants that might be poisonous, and doing all of it barefoot. But let's not skip ahead. Let's actually live this day, minute by minute, because the life of a Stone Age man is simultaneously more brutal and more free than anything you've ever experienced. The morning begins not with a gentle sunrise and birdsong, but with the cold. Caves are dark and damp, and the fire that kept everyone alive through the night is now a pile of faintly glowing ash. Whoever is awake first has a job. Keep that fire alive. Not a suggestion, not a chore assigned by a parent, a matter of life and death. Because starting fire from scratch, without a lighter, without matches, without anything except 2 sticks and stubbornness, can take up to 45 minutes. And 45 minutes of rubbing sticks together. First thing in the morning, before coffee, before anything, and you can't stop, because if you stop, you go back to zero. So yes, before modern man checked his phone 47 times before getting out of bed, his ancestor was already in a full-on argument with physics over whether fire exists. Good morning, Stone Age? Once the fire is alive, the first real decision of the day has to be made. What's for breakfast? And the menu is exactly what you can find within walking distance. No delivery apps, no leftovers in a fridge. Just nature and whatever nature decided to leave around. If yesterday's hunt was good, there might be dried meat wrapped in leaves near the fire. Stone Age food preservation meant drying meat in the sun or smoking it over fire, techniques that kept food safe for days. So breakfast might actually involve leftovers, just without the microwave. If there are no leftovers, the morning begins with foraging. The women and children of most known hunter-gatherer groups handled the majority of plant food collection. Berries, tubers, nuts, roots, which actually accounted for 60 to 80% of daily calories. Foraging isn't wandering. It requires memorized knowledge of hundreds of plants, which are safe, which are toxic, which are only safe when cooked, and which ones gave your uncle a stomach problem for 3 days in the rainy season 2 years ago. This knowledge wasn't written down. It lived in the heads of the oldest people in the group. The elders weren't just respected because they were old, they were respected because if they died, the entire group's food library died with them. Back at camp, the fire is now going properly. Someone places stones around it and puts meat directly on the hot rocks, one of the earliest cooking methods. The smell spreads through camp and suddenly everyone is extremely interested in being nearby. And here's something nobody warned you about Stone Age breakfast. The food is actually good. Hunter-gatherer diets were extremely diverse, dozens of different plant species, varied protein sources, wild fruits. Modern archaeologists studying ancient teeth consistently find less decay than in early farming populations. But eating is not a solo activity. Sharing food isn't just polite, it's mandatory. In hunter-gatherer societies, hoarding food is essentially the worst thing a person can do. It's the social equivalent of a crime. Food belongs to the group, not because of any law or punishment, but because everyone knows. If you don't share when you have extra, nobody will share with you when you have nothing. The social contract was invented around a fire, not in a courthouse. By mid-morning, breakfast is done. The fire is maintained, and the group begins to split up based on a plan nobody actually announced, but everyone somehow already knows. This is what modern researchers call coordination without hierarchy. You might just call it knowing your people. The hunting party leaves around mid-morning. This isn't 3 people sprinting after a deer. This is an organized, disciplined team effort that can last up to 8 hours. And it begins not with running, but with reading, tracking. Reading animal footprints, broken branches, disturbed ground, the direction grass was pushed. Expert trackers could tell the species, size, age, health status, speed, and how long ago an animal passed through from footprints alone. This was a science mastered over a lifetime. Humans are persistence hunters. We don't outrun prey, we outlast it. We jog steadily for hours. The animal sprints, stops, thinks it escaped, then we appear again on the horizon, still jogging, still coming. Because humans can sweat and cool down while running. Most animals can't. The animal eventually overheats and collapses. This isn't fast. This isn't exciting in the Hollywood sense. You might track and chase the same animal for 4 to 6 hours before it finally goes down. Hunting is a test of patience, not speed. When the animal goes down, there is no celebration. There is work. Butchering begins immediately because in the heat, meat spoils fast. Stone tools, scrapers, blades, choppers are used with practiced precision. Every part of the animal is used. Bones for tools, sinew for rope, hide for clothing. The liver and heart are often eaten on the spot, still warm. This sounds shocking to modern ears. It was simply practical. Organs are the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal and they spoil the fastest. Stone Age nutrition was optimized by survival, not by aesthetics. Meanwhile, back at camp, the group that didn't hunt isn't idle. Tool maintenance is a constant, necessary job. Flint knapping, the skill of chipping stones into blades, requires years of practice and produces edges sharper than modern surgical steel. A skilled knapper could produce a blade in 20 minutes. A bad one could accidentally cut themselves badly enough to become a liability to the group. There was no hospital, no stitches, no antibiotics. Being incompetent wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. Children learned by watching, not in a school, not in a class, just by sitting next to the adults and copying. Archaeology consistently finds small, imperfect versions of adult tools at ancient sites. Evidence that children were practicing, learning by doing from the age they could hold a stone. By midday, a successful hunt means the hunting party is heading back, carrying the animal. This requires improvised technology, branches tied with sinew to make a stretcher, or the meat divided and carried on backs. The return journey could take 2 to 3 more hours. When the hunting party walks back into camp, everything stops. This is the moment of the day that matters most, not because of the meat, but because of what the meat represents. A successful hunt is proof that the group works. That trust exists, that tomorrow is possible. The butchering and distribution process follows strict unwritten rules. The hunter who made the kill usually gets the least. This is documented across dozens of different hunter-gatherer groups. The kill belongs to the community. The hunter gets the status, not the steak. This isn't unfair. It's anti-hoarding technology built into culture. If the best hunters hoarded the most food, everyone else would resent them. By giving the hunter status instead of extra meat, the group keeps the hunter motivated without creating inequality. Thousands of years of social engineering solved without a single meeting. By early afternoon, everyone has eaten. And this is when modern people would completely lose their minds because nothing happens. Not nothing as in relaxing with Netflix, nothing as in sitting, talking, watching clouds, grooming each other, existing without justification. Anthropologist James Woodburn documented that among the Hadza in Tanzania, adults spend approximately 6 hours a day in what he called social time, not working, not sleeping, just talking, laughing, sitting together. Because in a world without money, relationships are the only currency. And the talk is mostly gossip. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research found that roughly 65% of all human conversation across cultures is social. Who did what? Who said what? Who is getting along with whom? Not strategy, not philosophy. Who said something weird at breakfast? This isn't shallow. Dunbar argues that gossip is literally what language was invented for, not to coordinate hunts, not to give directions, but to manage social relationships in large groups. Language exists so you can talk about people who aren't there. The children spend the afternoon doing what children do in every culture and every era of human history, playing. But Stone Age play was survival training. Games mimicked hunting, throwing sticks at targets, chasing each other, wrestling, climbing. Fun and education were the same activity. The teenagers are doing what teenagers always do, testing authority, trying to impress each other, and pretending they know more than they do. The only difference is that in the Stone Age, showing off involved actually useful skills. Spear throwing, fire starting, tracking, style points were earned with competence. By mid-afternoon, the heat of the day becomes a reason in itself to stop moving. Archaeological and anthropological evidence suggests midday rest, a kind of prehistoric siesta, was common in warm climates. Not laziness, thermoregulation. Your body conserving energy intelligently. The afternoon is for crafts. And I don't mean crafts the way your elementary school teacher meant crafts. I mean the only technology available to you in the entire world made by hand, with no instruction manual, no supply store, and no room for error. Spear making is a multi-step process that takes hours. Select the right wood, straight, dense, the right weight, strip it, dry it, straighten it over fire. Attach a stone tip using sinew and natural adhesive. Balance it. test it, realize the tip is wrong, and start over. Some tools found at archaeological sites show evidence of repair and resharpening over many years. One flint knife from Germany showed signs of use for over 20 years. People were attached to their tools the way you might feel about a car or a phone. This is the thing that keeps me alive, and I made it myself. And then there's art. Not art as a career, not art as a hobby. Art as something that simply happens when a human has time and a surface and something that makes a mark. In 2018, researchers discovered abstract crosshatch drawings in a South African cave dated to 73,000 years ago, the oldest known drawing in human history. Why did they make art? The honest answer is, nobody knows completely. Maybe to mark territory, maybe to record information, maybe because looking at a lion painted on a wall before a hunt made everyone feel braver, or maybe because a human with free time and a sharp rock just makes things. That's what we are. The jewelry found at archaeological sites tells us something specific. Stone Age humans cared deeply about how they looked. Shell beads, animal teeth, necklaces, ochre body paint, bird feathers, they weren't dressing up for special occasions. Evidence suggests this was everyday self-expression. But here's the thing about afternoon crafts. They're social too. Nobody sat alone in a corner making a basket. Tool making, weaving, bead drilling, all of it happened in groups. Talking, laughing, showing off, criticizing each other's technique. The Stone Age workshop was also the Stone Age living room. Music appears this early too. Bone flutes dating back 40,000 years were found in Germany. But rhythm instruments, simple drums made from hollow logs, clappers made from bones, almost certainly predate. Even those finds, music emerged not from sophistication, but from the basic human need to fill silence with pattern. And dancing. Don't underestimate dancing. Anthropologists find evidence of ritual movement in virtually every culture they study, ancient and modern. Dancing synchronizes heartbeats, releases endorphins, and creates a feeling of group unity that no speech can replicate. It's biology-level bonding. By late afternoon, the light is starting to shift. The temperature drops slightly. Children are called back from wherever they've been. The fire, always the fire, is fed again. The camp reconvenes. And the most important part of the Stone Age day is about to begin. Night in the Stone Age is not quiet. The world is full of sounds, wind, insects, distant animal calls. The darkness beyond the fire is absolute. And your entire nervous system is tuned to process every noise as a potential threat. This is where your modern startle response comes from. Fire didn't just cook food and provide warmth. Fire was the psychological center of Stone Age life. Research by anthropologist Polly Wisner found that daytime conversations in hunter-gatherer groups focused on practical matters, food, tools, complaints. At night, 81% of conversations shifted to stories. These weren't casual stories, they were the original encyclopedia, the original school, the original religion. Stories about where the group came from, what the stars mean, what happens when you die, how the leopard got its spots, why you should respect the river. Packaged in narrative so that it was impossible to forget. The concept of gods, spirits, and the supernatural almost certainly emerged here around a fire at night, in the dark, when humans had full stomachs and nothing to fear immediately in their minds. Ask the oldest question in human history: what is all of this for? And then there were the practical stories, cautionary tales that kept people alive. Don't go near that river after dark. A crocodile got someone there. Don't eat the red berries near the rocky hill, they'll make you sick for a week. These stories functioned as a community immune system. Shared memory, stored in narrative. Laughter was also a nighttime weapon. Humor in hunter-gatherer groups wasn't just entertainment, it was a social tool. Mocking someone who was getting too big for their fur loincloth, who was bragging too much or not sharing enough, was how the group maintained equality. Comedy is cultural regulation. And here's something your sleep doctor probably never told you. Stone Age humans didn't sleep the way you do. A 2016 study of 3 modern hunter-gatherer groups found they sleep in 2 separate phases. First sleep, about 4 hours, then a wakeful period of 1 to 2 hours. Then second sleep for another 4 hours, that middle of the night waking period. Not insomnia, not a problem. It was used for reflection, quiet conversation, watching the fire, sometimes going outside to look at stars. When historians discovered descriptions of first sleep and second sleep in medieval European texts, they realized this was the original human sleep pattern. We didn't lose it, we broke it with electric light. The dreams that came with this fragmented sleep were taken seriously. not analyzed through a $200 per hour therapist, shared around the fire. Dreams were messages, warnings, visits from ancestors. They were treated as information because the waking mind couldn't process everything consciously. But something in the sleeping brain clearly could. By the time second sleep ends and the real dawn comes, the Stone Age man has been through a complete cycle that took millions of years of evolution to optimize: food, movement, craft, social bonding, storytelling, reflection, sleep. Every psychological need met without a single app. Now here's where this stops being a history lesson and starts being a mirror. Because everything we've covered, the social time, the storytelling, the crafts, the two-phase sleep, the movement, science, has spent the last 30 years rediscovering these as the conditions for optimal human health. Modern humans have higher rates of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and chronic disease than any population in history with access to medicine. We live longer than Stone Age humans, but we're arguably experiencing less life per year. They had shorter lifespans, but more present moment richness per day. The neuroscience confirms it. Your brain's default mode network, the part that activates when you're doing nothing, is responsible for creativity, empathy, self-reflection, and memory consolidation. It only switches on during idle time. Stone Age afternoons were basically a daily default mode network workout. We've outsourced ours to anxiety. The social time wasn't a luxury. It was a biological necessity. Research from Brigham Young University found that loneliness increases mortality risk by 26%. People with strong social connections live measurably longer. Stone Age humans built 6 hours of forced daily socialization into their lifestyle, not by choice, but by survival logic. The physical movement wasn't gym sessions, it was distributed, low-intensity movement spread across the whole day. Walking, carrying, crouching, climbing, with occasional intense bursts. Exactly what modern exercise science identifies as optimal for cardiovascular health and mental well-being. They weren't optimizing. They were just living. The diet, diverse, whole, unprocessed, is now the template for virtually every serious nutrition framework. Paleo, Whole30, Mediterranean. Every modern diet trend is essentially humans trying to get back to what their ancestors ate before agriculture locked them into wheat and corn and processed grain for 10,000 years. And the crafts, the hours of focused manual creation, map almost perfectly onto what psychologist Mihaly described as flow state, complete absorption in a challenging, meaningful task, the mental state associated with the highest levels of human happiness. They stumbled into flow every afternoon without knowing what it was called. The most haunting parallel is this: the things modern humans pay the most for are the things Stone Age humans had for free. Mental health therapy costs money. Exercise costs money. Organic food costs more. Silence costs money. Community costs effort. Being outside in nature is increasingly something you have to schedule. The agricultural revolution didn't just change how humans ate, it reorganized the entire structure of human time. You went from owning your days to owning them, from producing for yourself to producing for a system. The freedom that the Stone Age man woke up with every morning, that was the last generation that had it unconditionally. But here's the most important thing about the Stone Age man's day. None of it required him to be special. He didn't need to be productive. He didn't need to optimize himself. He didn't need to achieve anything beyond keeping the group alive and keeping the relationships real. He was already enough by default. So why does any of this matter? Because you're not a modern invention. Your brain is 300,000 years old. It was built for the Stone Age world, not the one you're currently living in. Every anxious thought, every longing for something you can't name, every 2 a.m. feeling that something is wrong, that might be your Stone Age brain, noticing the mismatch, the boredom you feel when you put your phone down for 10 minutes. That's not you being broken. That's your brain finally getting quiet enough to do what it was built to do: process, imagine, connect, create. The Stone Age man didn't need to be entertained. He was the entertainment for himself and for everyone around him. The relationships you keep putting off for later, the conversations you owe people, the friends you haven't seen, those are not extras. Those are the whole point. For 300,000 years, the humans who had the strongest relationships were the ones who survived. Connection isn't a luxury, it's the oldest life or death skill humans have. The crafts, the focus, the making of things with your hands, your brain is still craving it. Gardening, cooking, woodworking, drawing, writing, building, the modern versions of flint knapping and basket weaving. When you make something physical with your hands, something in you responds at a depth that no screen ever reaches. The night around the fire, the storytelling, the laughter, the shared silence. That's what your nervous system was designed for. Not a text thread, not a comment section. Actual presence, actual voices, actual people in the same space, watching the same fire, sharing the same night. The Stone Age man didn't optimize his morning routine. He didn't track his macros. He didn't hack his sleep. He didn't meditate for 15 minutes because an app told him to. He just lived fully, physically, socially, creatively in the only moment that has ever actually existed right now. We've built a world of almost unimaginable comfort and capability. We've cured diseases that killed millions. We've connected every human alive. We've put machines in our pockets that contain the entire sum of human knowledge. And we are, by many measures, the most anxious and disconnected humans who have ever lived. That's not an argument against civilization. It's an argument for paying attention to what you actually are. You're a Stone Age animal in a modern world. And the things that made the Stone Age man's life rich, movement, connection, craft, story, fire, silence, are still available to you. They're just not default anymore. You have to choose them. The man who woke up in that cold cave 100,000 years ago, poked the ashes back to life, went out into a dangerous world with nothing but his hands and his people, then came back and spent the afternoon making a bead for no reason other than it was beautiful. That man is your ancestor, and he is more alive in you than you probably know. So the next time you feel bored and your hand reaches automatically for your phone, pause just for a moment, because 100,000 years ago, that feeling created art, music, language, religion, and everything human civilization has ever been. Boredom didn't hold the Stone Age man back. It made him. And if you let it, it might do the same for you.